Climate scientists say that as a human race, we must bring the amount of carbon in our atmosphere down to 350 parts per million, or our planet may become unfertile and life may cease to exist.
Now the Exxon Valdez, that really strikes a chord with me because in the 80s this massive tanker ran aground off the coast of Alaska, saturated the coastline with millions of gallons of crude oil, killed countless marine life, and virtually took no responsibility for it. Exxon's one of the largest companies in the world right now. And people from my generation have a lot of contempt for that company.
What do you think about global warming?
I think it's a pretty big problem. It's something that needs to be addressed, and our government is not doing enough about it.
I mean, there's obviously a lot of scientific backing on the effect of CO2 in the atmosphere.
Sometimes the media portrays it, but I do think it's our responsibility as humans that live on this earth to take care of our planet.
I definitely agree that there is global warming. It's real. I think there's enough scientific evidence to prove it.
I think it's sad.
It's totally real.
I think that it is the single largest problem we face as a planet today.
Right now, the levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is 392 parts per million. Now, if we subtract 392 by 350, you get 42. 42 is a very important number. If we do not bring carbon dioxide levels down by 42 parts per million, we all may die. The human race may not exist anymore. So how can you bring down carbon dioxide levels by 42 parts per million? At the current moment, the entire world uses 16 terawatts of electricity. A standard light bulb will use about 100 watts. A family of 4 uses about 28,000 watts, or 28 kilowatts. A large city will use about 1 billion watts, or a gigawatt. A terawatt is 1,000 gigawatts. The US uses 26% of the world's power, or 4.16 terawatts. Hopefully all 16 will be produced by green technologies as soon as possible.
My name is Kevin Good. I'm the founder of Suns Free Solar. We are a local solar photovoltaic PV contractor. And what we do is we're typically invited to people's homes to analyze their energy needs and the viability of putting solar panels on their roof. In 2008, we launched our company because the California Solar Initiative, the CSI, that's an initiative that was put on the ballot by the California voters that said we want to have a rebate structure in the state of California to make it viable for people to have an economic case to go solar. So these incentives were available for people in the thousands of dollars to put solar on the roof, and it was very effective to get people to go. And as people got more and more solar power, the scale of economy dropped the price of solar panels. And it used to be in 2008, people would ask me, is solar power even really viable? And we demystified that largely by peer proofing, and you cannot open a periodical, a newspaper, the television, you cannot open the internet without seeing some sort of article or story about solar power. So the demystification of the viability of solar power as even a real technology is gone. People no longer say solar is the future. That used to be the narrative. It's the future. It's not. It's the present. We've proven that. But the current narrative is the electric vehicle. Oh, that's the future. And it's our responsibility, and I think it's this documentary's responsibility to demystify that. It's not the future, it's the present, and I can most definitely speak to that.
One of our fastest growing and most controversial topics in the automotive world are electric cars.
Searching electric vehicles for probably 10 years
And the Nissan Leaf is the only one that meets our needs. It holds 5 people comfortably, and it's within my budget, and it does not have a gasoline engine. I really like the concept of electric cars.
So the reason we bought this car was because we are, like so many other people, just frustrated by the way our culture and our behavior is dominated by driving big vehicles all around. And so for us, this was a good solution for getting around the island.
I have always dreamt about having a car that did not run on gas. And actually my neighbors down the street got a Nissan Leaf after they got solar panels because they realized that it made economic sense, and my husband saw their Leaf and said, we should look into that, which we did, and we found out that it also would make economic sense for us and that it would allow us to really get solar panels on our roof and make them work.
Yeah, really I would say the primary motivator for us for getting this car was trying to find a way to live that was less based on a traditional car. And so for a year we actually lived with no car. We had 2 cars and we sold them both, and we got around by bus and by bike and by foot. And that was challenging, and so after a full year of no car, we bought this. And then for another year we had just this car. So yeah, the green is a very big motivator.
For me, in this order, these are the pros of the Nissan Leaf, in this order for me. First is it doesn't use any gasoline, and so I'm not part of the cycle of drilling for oil and fighting wars to drill for oil and polluting while you make the oil and transport the oil and then while you burn it out of your car. I drive this car 99% of the time since I've had the car. I drive it to work. I work in Oakland. It's probably a 7-mile commute at the most. So I rarely am running out of power. I also drive it to go to the parks in the hills, or I drive it to San Francisco. I take it to the airport to pick people up. If I have to go further than half the range, which would be about 50 or 60 miles, then I would take my husband's car.
Well, I drive 33 miles from my house, Alameda, to Milpitas, and fortunately we have chargers at work, so I get to charge up at work and come back. Now, technically, I can actually drive to work and come back on a single charge, but that's pretty risky because that'll leave me just about no margin.
When I charge the car, it tells me on my dashboard that I have 126 miles I can go, and if I just drive in Alameda, I can get all of those miles. When you start going on the highway, and you go up hills, especially on the highway, you don't realize. I didn't used to pay attention to the fact that I was going up a slight incline to get on, and approaching the Bay Bridge there's an incline, and that really sucks the battery power at a faster rate than if you're going 25.
If I charge my car fully, I can actually drive about 70 miles on realistic driving, and so if I drive 33 miles each way, I will have very little margin. So I also like electric cars because it's really, really quiet. It does not interrupt other people's lives. Okay? So if I drive 33 miles each way on single charge, I will have no margin for things that I don't expect.
When you first charge it, it assumes, from what I can tell, I think it assumes that you're going to go on a pretty flat road 30 to 45 miles an hour. As you start driving the actual terrain, it will adjust how many miles it thinks are left. So you'll see it go down. So in that sense, it's conservative, because if you're driving up a hill, it's going to start sucking the miles left down, but then when you turn around and go back down the hill, you get the miles back.
Yeah. You know, what I like about it is, you know, besides the fact that it's an electric car, it's just a really nice car. It's roomy. Like I said, it carries 5 people. It's really fun to drive. It's the smoothest car I've ever driven. There's no rattle. There's no vibration. It doesn't shift. it's as smooth as a Rolls Royce. It's very responsive. If I need a sudden burst of acceleration, I get it instantly. I don't have to wait for the transmission to downshift. There's gasoline cars, usually there's a little lag. I don't have any of that. It's very elegant.
Electric cars don't consume toxic liquid fuels like gasoline and diesel cars do. They consume electricity. The trick with electricity is that it can either be made from dirty fossil fuel resources, or it can be made from clean technologies such as wind and solar.
We get our energy from Alameda Power and Telecom, and so we just actually plug it in over there in the driveway with a regular 110 extension cord.
The main pro for me is that I don't have to buy gasoline and I don't make any pollution from my car as it is driving down the street.
A gasoline car puts out very toxic chemicals, so you need a catalytic converter to treat that. Gasoline is hard to ignite, so you need spark plugs that wears out and you have to replace. Gasoline engine does not operate well in a wide range of speed, so you need a complicated transmission to shift to make sure your engine is in an optimal range.
When we think about the green economy, and this is the green economy, we think about wind, we think about geothermal, we think about all these things, and tides, and we think about fuel cell technology, and we think about the potential and the narrative. Oh, this is the future. Well, this isn't the future. We've already debunked that. This is the present. We think about the electric vehicle. Man, that is the holy grail. 100% electricity in your home, 100% of electricity in your car, all renewable. That is it. You've arrived.
And because I don't have to buy any gas, it's also cheaper to own, significantly cheaper. Actually, the amount I pay just for the lease for the Leaf is how much I would normally pay for gasoline.
It's a huge initial investment. This car costs about $40,000 to buy. That's very expensive. But fortunately, we get $7,500 from the federal government to help cover it, and we also get $2,500 from the state. And also, because I drive this car a lot, I drive this car 17,000 miles a year, so I'm saving $2,000 a year in fuel compared to the car that I used to have, the Subaru, that got 25 miles per gallon. So I kind of run the math. Turns out that I'm saving that much money. So my thinking is that in 10 years, I'm going to save $20,000. So in 10 years, it'll be like buying this car for $10,000. That's a pretty good deal for a car.
And it's also a really fun car to drive, and it's big enough for what I need, and I feel like I'm driving a spaceship, which just feels so fun every day.
The perks and minuses of an electric vehicle are twofold. If we're talking about 100% electric vehicle, the main perk is that you're never going to have to buy gasoline again, specifically if you offset the cost of fueling that car with electricity supplied by solar. The minuses are the range. So when we think about the electric vehicle, what we're really talking about, if the electric vehicle is a book, this is the very first page of that book. And it's a great place to be, the electric vehicle. Now, there may have been a prelude to this book, or a table of contents that was Who Killed the Electric Vehicle, the documentary from the 80s when GM and these other manufacturers came up with the concept of having an 100% electric vehicle, and that sadly disappeared. But this day, today, 2013, is really the first day.
After watching this documentary, we invite you to come up with ways to solve global warming. Whether that is painting your roof white, buying an electric car, or getting solar panels, find a way that you can change your life to help solve global warming.
I think that any one solution will only help if it's taken on by a majority of the population.